Games, my guy.
Boom goes the dynamite.
It's only a game. Why did you have to be mad?
Hello, and welcome back to Games My Guy podcast, the esports podcast by fans for fans. My name is Patrick Aches Avery Kenny, and joined by a sleepy, coffee, sicky Ethan
No.
Goose Butler. No,
Shut up. Just get me to work. No, I'm okay.
You're good. Yeah.
Yeah. I was being a goof.
He's a little goofy. But Ethan, how you doing, man?
It's been a bit of a day and a week and a month or two, but that's how it is in these trying times we live in.
It's true. You gotta do your best. You gotta do whatever you can. Has it been difficult just getting your gamer fuel and all that stuff?
Sometimes you really got to force yourself to get back on that grind. That you just got to really give it the old college try, and you'll get there eventually. But some days, you just want to curl up maybe with a little cozy Coke and just watch some Clone Wars or something.
And just vibe out, yeah. How far along are you in Clone Wars, by the way?
I finished season 4 last night, so I'm in season 5 now.
Nice. Man,
yeah,
you're
things have happened.
Yeah, you're plugging along. You're going through some pretty fun stuff. Season 4 to 5 was kind of like my favorite. I really, really like season 4 and 5. It's good.
I'm happy. I'm very excited to see the last episode I watched. It had some fun characters. I won't spoil anything for anyone.
Spoilers of this ancient kids TV show that
you never know. I don't want to say it. Certain impressionable youths perhaps could be listen, or our random Twitter followers perhaps. But
who knows? But today,
we did hit an important milestone. If you're a fan of memes,
yes,
we hit 69 followers on Twitter.
Ethan, it's all coming together.
We've made it. Once you reach meme status, you've made it.
You've made it. Yeah, we have something to hang our hat on, to be honest, with that 69th follower.
We can be very proud that how far we've come.
It was just yesterday when we didn't have the sex number.
No, and then we got a follower or two.
Exactly. But we should probably talk about some games because
it's true.
The games that we're talking about were pretty sick. And I'm talking about the playoffs weekend number 2. Lots of crazy stuff going on. The biggest storyline going into that was probably the Washington Justice coming off
indeed.
Craziness in the quarterfinals and making it all the way here. But that was a big storyline. The biggest game of the week, arguably, at least for NA fans, you're looking at the San Francisco Shock versus the Philadelphia Fusion, the number 1 and number 2 seeded teams. You had it all. This weekend had it all.
It had it all. It had the drama, the suspense, the relief, if you're a fan of teams like Philly, in the end, I suppose. The heartbreak, if you're a fan of Justice. Everything came together this weekend. Involved thrilling 5-map series, some dominant sweeps, some games where it looked like it was going to go one way, then didn't. So it was full of everything you could ever ask for in Overwatch League. And yeah, that Shock Philly game was a banger if you're a Shock fan, because they kind of in Hollywood they came out on top rather respectively, and it's been memed to death, but no one predicted the Shock to win that game, and all of a sudden here we are.
Well, honestly, when we're in a world where Washington Justice make it this far, anyone can lose to any team.
You never know what's going to happen. Yeah,
honestly, Philadelphia very could have won against the San Francisco Shock, just because I don't know, up is down, down is up. It's crazy. It's there's just so many with this new meta, but we did see a lot of teams kind of figuring out the meta as well. I mean, if we just talk about the Washington Justice series, the 3 games they played as a whole, you could see teams really kind of understanding how to play against that Roadhog Zarya composition.
Yeah, and you have to feel for the Justice. I know people are a bit on one side or the other how they feel about how they're run and what happened to make it happen. It's sad that it has to be like that, because you just want to be happy for the players. But there's also some people who are oh, this shouldn't have happened, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. It happened. Fuck you. It's fun. The Justice has adorable players like Stitch, and so we love them. And also their general manager Pre and their coach Supreme are like two of the nicest dudes I've ever seen on Twitter. Like Supreme, I've tweeted at Supreme sometimes and he'll just like and say like, "Thanks, man." I'm like, he just warms my heart with how sweet he is. Very handsome man as well. Just to point that out. If he's listening, hello.
Yeah.
I'm free on Thursday. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm free on Thursday. But
it's like, honestly, everyone in esports, but especially in Overwatch League, everyone talks to you on Twitter. Like, it's crazy. Like, just in general, like, everyone's really open to be talking to you and like wanting to like interact with you. Like, one of my tweets in support of Washington Justice, because that was my favorite thing about the playoffs this whole time, was just the Washington Justice series and their story. And the only like I got was from the Washington Justice official Twitter page.
Their official Twitter account is super supportive of the fans and people who, and if you tag them, they'll usually give you a light and show of support, because I think they just truly appreciate how loyal their fans are and how they've been here through the tough times, the bad times, and the good times. I mean, we Boston Uprising fans have been through worse, just going to point that out, but you don't see anyone hoping us to go on a miracle run, but that's fine. No, like they have put out some. It was cool to see this weekend because the Justice played like you said, 3 straight games, and so like they had little time to prepare, so they perfected essentially one comp with one minor alteration to it.
Yeah,
which is what got them to go over the edge. Yeah,
they tried a few different things, but they definitely looked best on what we saw them playing last week, which was the the Roadhog Zarya. It's so easy. It rolls off the tongue. Ryan Zarya.
I was playing a bit of ranked last night, sir, and the Ryan Zarya was potent, I would say. Some Ryan Diva. And I said to our good friend Larry, I was saying, Larry, have I ever told you how much I enjoy playing Zarya into a Diva? Because I was just melting. I love playing Diva, and sometimes you can get the better of them if you play it right.
Yeah.
But good God, sometimes when the Diva's not playing it right, they just come at you to try and mate with you. No, sir. I'm not phased. You are giving me power as I bring you down. It's wonderful. But yeah, like the thing that with the Justice comp works so well is like you can't really avoid it at some points. Especially on the maps they were choosing. They were very good with their map selection, and they would choose maps where it forced you to confront them. And it's really hard unless you're playing a certain way and with certain heroes to beat that straight on. It's like Roadhog's so potent. To take on the Zarya, everything was going right for the Justice.
What was interesting about when you mention map picks, I feel like this was really when this whole playoff season is when I really started to notice that map picks were a really huge part of Overwatch League esports. Like, you had all the commentators talking about map picks and like talking about who gets the next map pick. Like, you could really tell that it was an integral part of the strategic part of Overwatch League. And I mean, Washington running one composition through all of that, like, you're going to get counterpicked one way or another, whether it be like a hero pick or if it's a map pick like we're talking about. And I mean, like, if we're talking about the Valiant Washington series, that first series that Washington played, like, I know you're probably heartbroken. I know it sucks because I know how big of a Valiant fan you are.
I was wearing my jersey during that game, and I felt like I was the only one of the people on Twitter going wings out.
It's just the Kings Row map was sick. It was really, really cool to see because Washington had lost the Busan map. They didn't look good at all. And
no, they got dominated.
And Kings Row was also starting to not look good. And so, like, the dream looked dead right off the get-go.
Yeah.
But that whole Kings Row progression, like, that was really exciting to see. It looked like everyone kind of warmed up. Unfortunately, it was against the Los Angeles Valiant, who we do love.
They should feel no shame in how their season went down. When they come into the season, the meme was, you remember how, like, everyone, I think we've talked about it on the show before when we praised the Valiant, is that like, oh, let's see this team make it out of open division, or they're going to be a bottom team, or let's bet I'll shave a logo and decide my head they made it top 10, one of those type of people.
Right.
But they performed very well, and like they had some pieces, even to this day, people underrate so many of their players. Like, I saw some guys saying like upgrade them. It's like, oh, you're gonna make the upgrade to McGravy and stuff like that. He's a good diva, but not much else. I was like, yo, did you ever watch McGravy play like Sigma? He was so good on the Sigma, and like he was playing so well. I think McGravy's fully earned his starting spot, and I'd like to see them continue to develop him and Dreamer as a duo. I think there's a lot of potential there, and this team should feel very proud of how things went down. They had a great season. They crowned a superstar in KSP, and like Shatz, especially on the Tracer. I think Shatz is actually really underrated. So if you've seen Shatz in the World Cup last year, that dude was popping off in like Widowmaker. His Reaper is really good. I'm not sure why they didn't have him playing Sombra at some points, but because they may want to run Tracer. But still, like I actually no, never mind. They were playing Sombra Reaper at one point, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
And they had Shatz on the Reaper and KSP on the Sombra. I'm like, do you guys not watch like the Gauntlet or anything or World Cup at all? Because like,
have you not seen this before?
Like KSP was playing the Reaper the whole time, and Shatz's Sombra was key to them beating the Titans last year. He's not a bad Sombra; he's a very good Sombra.
Yeah,
and so I don't know what's on there, but world class. But you know, very proud of how they delivered, and they were the first team to really show like a kink in the Justice's armor. Like they found a way, especially on control. Yes, it's control.
Yeah,
but like it's Busan, and they showed a way it could be beaten if executed properly.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It was really, really close, and you know, the control maps really did show the weaknesses to this composition. It's really fight or flight, and if your Roadhog gets compromised in any single way whatsoever, Zarya only has one bubble, and you also have a Mercy on this composition. So it's like the bubbles, the resources that they're working with are very, very limited. So it really doesn't lend itself really good for a prolonged fight 5v5, you know?
No, and they relied a lot on, I forget who pointed it out, but it was like if Janu went down first, that you could predict Arc was coming in. You knew Arc was going to try and get that. Like Arc was, to be fair, Arc's Mercy is excellent.
Yeah,
he's a very good Arc.
Can we talk about Arc's Mercy for just like 2 seconds?
Like that man is like, no, I don't want to go as far as saying liability on Lucio, but like his Lucio is so passive, he doesn't have much of an impact.
Yeah.
His Mercy though, like that man's was like how they called him. He was unkillable. Like but he barely died. I think in the Valiant after like map 1, that man like didn't die, and that was such a major problem if you're not being able to kill the Mercy and stop these reses. Like his Arc was getting away with murder. And I remember, I think it was Bren said in the podcast, or one of them says like, they can't keep doing this. They can't keep letting him get away with it. It may have been Jaws. Someone was British, but
that's all I remember.
I heard English accent, and I assume Bren, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like Arc was like we talked about the perfect storm with the Justice. One of the reasons, they got the tape. I think that was less. It was even less that as it went on. It was just that everyone got to play in this team their best roles.
Exactly.
The Arc got to play Mercy, aimed out on the Ana, and sometimes the Zen.
Yeah.
Detae Zarya. John was an amazing hog. Stitch remembered he's amazing at hit scan. And like Tuba, what the fuck? Like, all of a sudden Tuba is like the best tracer, Pharah, Sombra, whatever.
That man, all, apparently.
What the hell? What was that? I remember watching the games. I was like, what the hell is Stitch aimbotting? What the hell is Tuba doing here? How are you doing this? And like I remember back when they first signed Tuba and they were playing him sometimes. I remember complaining. Mm-hmm. I was like, where's Stratus? I wanted Stratus to play all the time. And I thought he deserved it, but fucking hell, Tuba popped off.
Yeah, and it's funny because Tuba has been integral to the 2 comps that have made the Washington Justice a team to be reckoned with. Like he played the Genji in the Super Genji meta that we had in the middle of that this season, and now he's playing the whatever you need kind of thing, so that Stitch can stay on that Ashe. It's crazy. Craziness.
Oh, man, that game. And then the Valiant game was heartbreaking, I will admit. Yes, yeah. I wanted the Valiant to go farther because they're one of my favorite teams. They're actually quite possibly, honestly, I think the Valiant was my favorite team to watch this season. Like their games were, every time they played was some of my favorite games. Like I go back and rewatch their win over Dallas in like weekend 1, like a lot.
Yeah.
Like the most, because like Dade didn't get to play much this year because Dreamer turned out to be really good. But like, man, Dade just charging left and right. The man's didn't care. He was charging. He was going to do it.
Gig was also one of those personalities too.
Oh, the eyebrows. One of these, like in the content, he's like
Yeah.
moving along, like no, thank you, no, thank you. He's doing some random shit, but yeah, the Valiant was such a fun team to watch. I'm sad they went out this way, but again, I think we'll now that we have a bit of a break, we're gonna get more into this in future episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not much changes I would make to the current Valiant roster. I know it's hard to say if they can keep some of the players they signed because of how well they perform. They might want to try and get a bigger salary.
Yeah.
But if they can keep everyone they've got now and maybe pick up someone like Nero or like, because I don't know if Nero's going to be with the charge. Just I think KSF's good, but like that's the most I can even say is just like you could maybe upgrade it like flex DPS, maybe even that, because KSF is actually pretty underrated. But like I don't know. I'm excited for them in 2021. I think a lot of good things will happen.
Yeah. Well, the road ended for the Valiant against the Washington, but Washington wasn't done there. They put the playoff run stoppage to the Florida Mayhem, which I think was probably the most exciting game of those three that they played.
In terms of, for the Justice?
Yes, for the Justice. Yes, in that whole storyline of this week.
That game was...
It was nuts. It was nuts. It was like it was the Washington of old. Like we were totally seeing a team that was ready to fight, ready to play. And a 3-0 in playoffs is crazy. Like absolutely crazy. Only really, really good teams are doing that right now.
And like it wasn't close.
No.
the Florida was boomed after map 1 and like hard. I'm just looking at the scores now, like I remember watching the game, but I forgot how brutal Numbani was.
Yeah.
And so, like, I rated Florida pretty high, to be honest. I thought they were doing pretty well. Like, they have so many good pieces.
So did I. I also rated Florida very, very high going into this.
I thought this was of course, I won't lie. Anytime the Justice played the game in this whole run, I thought this would be the time it ended. I just kept thinking, this is great. It can't continue. Mm-hmm. I thought it can't.
Simply couldn't.
It did. It's simply not allowed. But I don't know why I thought like Yati. He's so good, and then BQB was so good, and getting him Jin Gargoyle.
Yeah, it honestly felt like a tank diff, to be honest. Like it just felt like Washington, since they just been playing this one comp, they were able to take that one comp and apply to the Florida Mayhem in almost every map. And it really was to their benefit because Florida had no answer.
They brought out Genji at one point.
Yeah, they had no answer. They were playing dive. They were playing all sorts of craziness.
Genji's, he's got nerfed pretty hard, but and sure, in our low tiers where we are, Genji is still very devastating. But like at that rank, no one's playing Genji for a reason. And so like I don't fucking know what's going on with Florida. They're usually a team that like fuck. I don't know. I thought like as soon as I got to Florida, I was like, okay, if the Valiant can't do it, Florida will do it. But they did not, and it was not. You know what? Mayhem they didn't start any. They just the bomb was like it was lit, and then like Decay walked over, lit his 2 fingers, and just went and put out the fuse. So there, you're done.
You're done.
And they said, "Thank you very much, Mr. Decay. It's been a pleasure."
I'll put myself out.
Oh, the doors this way. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah,
but
I mean, the Florida game was pretty intense, seeing Washington right on top. But then, of course, we see the Philly game, and Washington is put right back in its place.
This was truly where the inflexibility of what the Justice have right now was really exposed. Like they were doing so well. I'm not trying to put that down. Like they were playing so well, but anytime like the Fusion did what no team could before, it seemed. They made the Justice switch. Like they had to you saw. I think Decay was on the HOD, Johnny was on Diva. Like everyone was swapping. There's randomly heroes all over the place, and you could tell the Justice were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't. Nothing. I think Decay is obviously really good, but his Roadhog obviously left something to be desired, all things considered, compared to Janu especially. And so it was not a close affair. It was a fun game to watch. I'm not gonna lie. Like you had Carpe doing Carpe things. Ivy like winning them the game with his Hanzo on
Yeah.
Kings Row. I think that's when they boomed them.
Yeah.
But and even on Volskaya as well. But fuck,
no,
like, it showed things.
Yeah, it showed a lot, and it also showed that one type of composition or one type of meta that we're in doesn't stop a really, really bad team beat a top tier team who's been top tier pretty much all season long. It was I felt sad because I was really excited, I was hopeful, but Philadelphia is the right team to go.
I won't lie. I supported the Justice run, and I love them, and I think they're great. I was supporting Philly in this game. I thought,
you coward, you coward.
I can't let it go out like this. I couldn't see it happen. Okay.
Yeah.
The Justice were so fun, but I don't know. Philly fans have suffered enough. Okay. Let them not like this type of deal, not like this for Philly, and so they did really well. And I am a little scared of Philly. They're reminded that how they played, because I watched some of the Shanghai games as well. Reminded me a bit of Shanghai. How their Sato was able to flex over to the HOD very comfortably. His HOD was really strong, and they played the HOD Sigma like a lot of the APAC regions was doing, and it looked so good for how they shut down the Justice.
Yeah.
And so Fusion are looking good going into the finals. I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you brought up a really good point when we were talking about this topic earlier, just about how if Washington went to Korea and competed, would they make it past the first match? Probably not, to be honest, because APAC is playing a very different game right now. And it I don't see a Roadhog and a Zarya really winning on any control maps ever against any APAC team, let alone the Shanghai Dragons.
No, man, because that's who they would be playing Shanghai first round. If they had won, they would have faced the Dragons, and man, MVP Fleta would just roll them. I think because Fearless actually looked really strong on the HOG.
Yeah,
Void's good on Sigma. Void's good whatever you need to play. But oh my goodness, I think Justice. We love them.
We love
Stitch.
them.
We adore you.
We've spent about 20 minutes talking about Justice games.
It's all we can think about right now. Because did you see Stitch's little hair? He was up like a weird top little finger.
They were freaking out. They were doing all sorts of randomness.
I don't know what's going on. They're being so goofy, but. No, I think Justice actually would probably be out in 2. I think they would get no matter who lost the game versus Shock versus Soul. I think that team would have just rolled the Justice.
It's true, but I mean, it's going to be a pretty interesting game against the Shanghai Dragons and the Philadelphia Fusion.
It is.
I'm excited. I already think that Shanghai is going to win, but I mean, that's just my opinion. It's hard to argue against the Shanghai Dragons at this point.
Man, if Philly Fusion somehow beats the Shanghai Dragons, APAC fans are going to be mauling for weeks. Even if Shanghai wins the whole thing, it's going to be a brutal. Twitter's going to blow up. It's not going to be fun. Not going to be fun for nobody.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah,
but again, I think it's about a. I'm actually going to rate Fusion pretty highly. It's probably, I think, a 60-40 chance Shanghai wins. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
they're playing better, but Fusion's also playing really well. So
Fusion's
it could go either
really
way.
Well, Ivy, I mean, I've loved that boy ever since he was on Toronto Defiant. He's popping off, and I mean, their alternate is Carpe. So I mean, it's really you're not losing really anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, on the long range hit stand. Okay. Shanghai's amazing. Fleta's he can play whatever you want to a high level. Even his Widowmaker is so strong as well. But I would probably rate most NA long range hit stand over APAC. You have Carpe, you have Ons, players like that. Those are the top tier. And
Ons
then
is really good.
Yeah, if it comes to an Ashe Tracer meta, Shock I think are going to roll everybody if it comes to Ashe Tracer. Well, you got fucking Onsen Striker. Who in the Final Four is going to be a maybe Prophet is a better tracer than striker, and
Fleta-
even that is like
Yeah.
Fighter's great, man. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but like cool.
We just need to see them play against each other, to be honest. Like, we've been so removed from information regarding like how these teams face against each other and how their compositions play against each other. So really, like, I think Fleta is probably the best tracer in the league right now. Or sorry, in the playoffs. Pardon me, in the playoffs. But at least he's the most consistent. Maybe he's not the flashiest, but I think he's the most consistent.
You doubt handsome striker?
I never said that.
As though I heard.
I just think Shanghai as a whole,
That's
especially with Fleta playing in these like power positions, these key heroes into their compositions, I think that he's definitely someone to look out for, and he's definitely the reason that Shanghai is doing so well, or he's definitely at least a huge part of it. So
100%.
Yeah, so the Philadelphia-Shanghai game is going to be pretty close, but I think we should come up with some sort of prediction for the weekend coming up in Korea.
And it's in October 10th, my guy. It's going to be we got some time to prepare ourselves mentally, physically. Yeah. It's going to be early morning games, which is not great for our purposes, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I just won't go to bed.
That's it for the 7 a.m. games, maybe.
Yeah, that's how I solved all my problems when I was a kid. I was like, oh no, I'm so excited to see Santa. I just won't sleep. There we go.
No, who needs sleep when you have Overwatch?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, San Francisco Shock versus Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty looked amazing last week.
They did. Yeah. They kind of, other than even the Shanghai game, but like Shanghai figured them out right quick, and actually, like the last two maps of that game weren't. I don't think they were particularly close. I accidentally woke up in time to watch Havana and Lijiang for Shanghai. I don't know. I just woke up at like 8 a.m. and I was like, oh, looked at my phone. I was like, I can't fall back to sleep right now. Looked at my phone. Oh shit, Shanghai and Seoul. Fuck it, I'm gonna throw this on. I was watching on my phone, lying in bed.
Garbage out of your bed. Oh my god.
Ugh. Oh my god.
Fuck
yeah. And so I watched that, and like, man, like Lip played Roosh so well on Lijiang. Like, it was such a great game for him. Like, he got, I think at one point he got 3K with a Deadeye, and because like they were playing Pharah on Control Center inside, and I was like, that's a risky move. Like, if you're playing against the like hitstand like McCree or something who's not hitting his shots, yeah, sure, fuck him up with Pharah. But Lip was hitting his shots. Like,
yeah.
I would switch off Pharah at that point, because even if you think it's going to perform well, it's clearly being handled. So, like, in terms of Seoul, they play really well against. I don't know what the fuck happened to NYXL. I think I predicted NYXL in that game. I was just like, you know what, this is going to be it. I'm not. They've been looking good. I'm not prepared to vote against NYXL.
Yeah.
And what the hell, man? NYXL, why do you do this to me? Every time I believe in you.
And it wasn't even close. Like a 3-0 over to Seoul Dynasty. Like, NYXL for a long time has been a team that in the APAC region has been super, super dominant.
They've been very consistent.
And,
not this season as
much. They 3-0'd the Charge on the same, like, in the same weekend.
Yep.
So
that game wasn't particularly. Oh, there's a tie, I guess. So
ties are better than losses.
I mean, suppose
you can make that argument, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Seoul Dynasty versus Fusions. Fusions definitely had on paper as a team that.
Wait, for which game?
The Philadelphia versus Seoul Dynasty.
No, they play the Dragons, my guy. Get Patrick.
Oh, Seoul Dynasty. Sorry, versus the Shock. Seoul Dynasty versus the Shock. Let me start that over.
All right.
So Seoul Dynasty versus the Shock. We should probably have some sort of prediction. San Francisco, I mean, is on paper the better team, and also
I would say so.
Yeah, and also has the ability to just completely shut down teams that are on hot streaks. And Seoul Dynasty is neither.
That's true. Like, sometimes Seoul does really. The Seoul is. I remember seeing people. Why can't people ever believe in Seoul Dynasty? I'm like, yo, I want to. I sometimes think they look like the best team in the league, but then they go and get pooed on the next day. And so like they're a very confusing team, a hard team to truly get behind unless you're already a fan.
Yeah.
And so on paper, I think the Shock are stronger. Like I think Moth is better than Toby for me. Some may disagree. That may be a hot take to some. But I think Twilight or Violet is better than Creative, who's been playing for them, and
Right.
Bedosian.
Yeah.
Choi probably leads above whoever's playing off tank. It's probably gonna be Marvel. Well, they've been running double off tank, so like
Yeah.
I think Choi's better than them on the role he plays. It's closer when it comes to Smurf and Super, I guess, with Jester, whoever's playing what. If it's a Winston meta, I think that's really close. Actually, Jester is really strong, but so is Smurf. And if it comes out to Reinhardt, our boy, World Cup champion, Roll Star, All Star, Overwatch League champion.
You got to get all the titles. You got to get all the
people's
titles.
champion, streamer extraordinaire, our favorite waifu, Matthew Cashew Super Delisi, I think is the better option. Like, there's just so many ways the Shock should be better on paper, and like I think I don't know, but the teams have such a lot of time to prepare, and the Seoul Dynasty have looked really good mostly on like this one thing. And if they like Fisher on stream recently talked about how with Seoul Dynasty they perfect one comp and they have an A plan, they do not have a B plan. If that A plan doesn't work, they get fucked.
Yeah.
And so I think
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
But,
So,
but
I mean,
I think the Shots should have the edge, but I think if it comes down to it, I think I'm gonna throw my weight towards the Shock. How about you, Patrick? What are your thoughts? I've been rambling here.
No. I'm glad you brought up Super because if there's any player that I want starting on my roster who gets psyched more about like the importance of the game and has been there before and like is ready to like be a positive force in these types of games, it's Super. I don't think they're practicing with him, but it's Super.
They should be if they're playing Roadhog. He looked better on Roadhog than Smurf did on Zarya.
Yeah. Super has proven how versatile he is. He should get more playtime. But
exactly.
I have to agree. I mean, San Francisco Shock, how can you go against the number one team in North America? You can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. They're the best.
Yeah. They're so good. Like, they're so flexible and creative, and their coaching staff is excellent. And they just added Cesarius, who I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he was Atlanta Reign last year. He was the head coach of the Netherlands, and they did so well in the World Cup. Then he was coaching Young and Beautiful in the EU contenders. He's a super smart dude and really understands the game well. And they added him as an analyst for going into the final rounds.
Yeah.
And he's so good. And so I think the Shock has a very stronger coaching staff. And I think they should be able to figure out Seoul Dynasty pretty easily.
Yeah. So, and like Seoul Dynasty is not a consistent team at all. So we'll see what version of Seoul Dynasty comes on to stage.
Yeah, like they have time to prepare, but so is the Shock. Exactly. Like I think the Shock have crusty.
Yeah, and if the Shock are, getting coaches in purely for the fact that they're in the playoffs, like this is a team that all around from top to bottom is trying to win. And like
they want this repeat.
Those organizations are the ones that keep winning. But I mean, so I'm leaning towards the Shock as well. So I'm way on side with you.
I'm fully prepared to eat crow if it goes the other way, but like I think that's the correct use of that phrase.
Yes.
But like I just don't see it happening the way things have been going. Like especially if you all season long, the Shock have been better than Seoul's been. Seoul found a meta that's hit right for them now, but like the Shock never lost the game in their whole run so far. The closest they came was with the Justice because that comp no one ever thought to prepare for. Like that was like early on, and then they figured it out at halftime and were like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and won handily. And so I think the Shock have the edge here, but
totally.
There's another game, Patrick.
There is another game, Shanghai Dragons versus the Philadelphia Fusion. We love Philadelphia Fusion. Great.
We know you love Carpe. If I bring up Carpe,
don't start with me. I have a couple players that if you ever say their name, that's all I can talk about, and Carpe is one of them. But I gotta be realistic.
You have to be.
I think we're well on a collision course for San Francisco versus Shanghai Dragons in the finals.
That's 100%. Where it's looking.
That's 100% on me. Shanghai has been consistently the best team in the APAC region. They have talent out the wazoo. They are arguably the best team over both leagues, regardless of like how much their regular season reflects the actual skill of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But in a Philadelphia Fusion versus Shanghai Dragon setup, on paper, you got to go with Shanghai Dragons, and that's where I'm going to lean towards. But Philadelphia, a lot like San Francisco, when given time to prepare, they're a team that always seems to rise to the challenge. And they are world enders. Like, they're coming out of last week's playoff round hot. Like, they beat
Very
teams,
hot.
They beat teams that they should have. They beat teams that were on hot streaks. They beat teams with momentum, like the Washington Justice. But that's a team that's red hot, ready to go, and ready to put everything into this next game because they know that this team that they're playing up against could win the whole thing.
Yeah, like you said, you put it perfectly. Like, Shanghai is unbelievable right now, and so like it's real hard to try and make an argument against Shanghai winning this game. Like, I think it's close. This is going to be a really close game, though. I don't think Shanghai's going to roll it if they win. But I don't know. Shanghai has that clutch factor as well. They go down 3 maps, they can win 4 in a row to win. But I think this also game is going to feature one of my matchups I'm super excited to look forward to. My 2 favorite Reddit Lucios outside of our Sweet Prince FD God May 2021 provide fruitful results. But that comes down to Funny Astro versus Lee Jae-gon. And these are 2 of the most aggressive, in-your-face, bloodthirsty main supports in the whole league. These guys are boop kings. They're in your face. They're ridiculous with all the shit they do. And so I'm so curious to see how it's going to go down if they ever have. I just want Lucio 1v1 at one point in the game.
Oh man!
I don't care how it happens. I just want them both trying to boop each other off the edge.
Yeah,
I want it. Give me it.
Honestly, I'm just hoping for like Mecha Base to just meta our way back to Ryan's Arya so we can see some Lucios again. That would be nice, at least for one map, you know?
That's another situation where that's interesting because Fearless and Sato's best heroes are both probably Winston. Like, and so they're both good on the Reinhardt too, of course. But like, I think they look the best on Winston. So like, who's the better Ryan in that situation? I don't know. Like, it's hard to argue this fact because like, I don't know. Like, you barely see that. Yeah, obviously there's been no matchup this year. We've seen primarily Winston from Fearless, and so. Fuck, it's gonna be crazy. And like, if it comes down to maybe a long range hit stand, Philly could squeak away with it, but that's not even guaranteed. Like, Tarpe is really good, but you know, like you said, we've talked in the past. You know who else is really good? Everyone on the Shanghai Dragons. And so like, how much can Tarpe really do? I don't know.
Yeah. So exactly. It's hard to vote against Philly. They could pull something out. They have a lot of time to prepare, but just sheerly from looking at the 2 teams, you got to go Shanghai Dragons. You got to do it.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast. Do you have any? I know it was a little bit of a big one, but
yeah, a lot to discuss though. A lot to have to. We didn't even get to everything because there's so much.
Yeah, we didn't even get to everything. We talked too much about Washington.
we got obsessed, okay? It's hard not to.
And that was purely my fault. It was just so fun. It was like the best narrative ever. Anyways.
It was goofy.
Yeah.
It was great.
But do you have any thoughts going into Korea for our NA boys?
I think all I want to say is, in this fandom, there's been a lot of division, I think, between APAC fans and NA fans, and I think it's stupid. Look, you can like NA without thinking APAC's bad. You can think APAC's really good without having to go out of your way with every post to say, oh, APAC's so much better than NA. They're both really good.
Yeah.
Love both. Just have fun. It's all great Overwatch. That's all I can say. Let's bring ourselves together here and stop separating ourselves in the way it seems to be wanting to go.
Yeah, true. Playoffs and through everything that this league has been through, it's important that we're all together and we all have a good time. And I mean, playoff Overwatch is my favorite Overwatch, so I'm super stoked. So we will see you next podcast.